What's going on, everybody? John Bean Sports here, and today we're going to analyze a badass motherfucker named Ikem Ekwonu. Now, his name is a bit of a tongue twister, so forgive me if I, screw it up here or there throughout the video. Because, honestly, my English sucks, alright? I'll just be honest about it. Now, if you're new to this channel, I'll have a bunch of these draft profiles all the way up into the draft. So, if you like them, subscribe now to get them all. During the regular season, I do all the New York Giants updates, rumors, talk about signings, all that good stuff. So, if you're a Giants fan, stop fucking around and just subscribe. Ring the bell, damn it. I've now watched enough film of Ekwonu to give him a fair analysis, in my opinion. So, I've glossed over most of the offensive linemen, at least a little bit, or watched some highlights, some guys, and I must admit that out of all the film, Ekwonu was by far the funnest, most entertaining out there to watch. I'll tell you that. Listen, this guy plays the game the way it was meant to be played. Honestly, he doesn't give a shit about his health. He especially doesn't care about the health of his opponent. Opposing teams will probably view him as a dirty player, but as someone who's played a bit of football, you love them kind of guys. So he's going to give you all he's got. And I promise you that linebackers and linemen are going to know where he is on run plays, because he will cripple you if he gets a chance. And he don't care if you're down. Even after you're on the ground, he'll put the crown of his helmet right in your gut. He will lay on top of you. He is looking to finish you. That's what he is. He's a finisher. Mortal Kombat style, if you get what I'm saying. And honestly, I just love players with that mentality, especially nowadays. It's refreshing. Now, we'll cover both sides of it, because sometimes his aggressiveness is to his detriment. He can be a little top heavy, going for like a knockout shot and put himself in a bad spot. He basically takes himself out of a play from time to time. Also, on double teams, sometimes he's so focused on knocking somebody out, he don't get to the second level like when he should. So he's just going to need to learn that you can't win every rep. You're not going to knock somebody out every play. There's defensive linemen in the NFL that are skilled, especially with their hands. They have good swim moves. And they will make you pay when you go for a knockout shot and you don't hit perfectly. He's a very smart young man. I'm not worried about all that, and I think he'll take great to coaching. So I started digging around and found out that he was actually offered a scholarship to Harvard coming out of high school. So he's a smart cookie. Both his parents were in athletics. I think his sister's successful. He's got a twin brother, Notre Dame, that plays football. And it just sounds like he's a great kid by all reports. He's just one of them guys that when they get on the field, something switches in their head. And I understand them. Football is designed to enforce your will. And honestly, the most forceful I can be is to knock you out of the game or get in your psyche. I was never a great football player because I took things to a level where you're right on the edge, probably where you shouldn't be. I was thrown off my football team in high school, but luckily Ekwonu is much more of a controlled player. But I really do think he's the kind of player that could step into a locker room and change teammates' thinking. When they see his effort and play on the field, it can uprise everybody. So from all reports, high character guy. Love him. Enough of the love fest though. I am going to get into his pass pro, which is probably the more negative B towards him, but I do want to touch on the scheme fit. And NC State runs a lot of wide zone. The Giants came out in the beginning of the last two seasons, and they've really been trying to run that outside zone for Saquon Barkley. They feel like that's his best fit. Now, unfortunately, the Giants don't really have the personnel to run that. Run any type of them plays, any kind of inside zone, outside zone, wide zone, not any of it. So it's just been a failure. The new coaching staff comes in, and if they choose to try to run it back, having Ekwonu on the team would be a huge help. If they're gonna run that outside zone stuff, the Giants should really consider Ekwonu for this team. You could plug him in and play him in a zone run scheme right away. I like him at right tackle. I love him at right or left guard. If he was to start at guard on this team, he might be the best O-lineman day one, over Andrew Thomas. I'm not even kidding. If you start him at right tackle, I think there's going to be opposite reasons. Andrew Thomas relied on his athleticism way too much coming out of college, which led to him getting beat on the inside. Ekwonu doesn't trust his athleticism enough. He oversets, especially against speed rushers, when really there's no need for it. He's got plenty of athleticism. His hips are good, feet, all of it. I think he's overthinking it, or he's being coached a certain way. I mean, that's always a possibility when you start to talk about these things in college. But honestly, when a player gets the NFL, these are all things that can be corrected through coaching. Repetition is probably the best thing for him, but taking extra steps and oversetting is something he doesn't need to be doing at all. But sometimes it takes a while for a coach to get some of these bad habits out of these players coming out. But honestly, if he can fix those problems, I think he'd be a pretty good pass protecting tackle in the NFL. His quick sets are good to go already, I think. Just work on those vertical sets a bit. Some people are going to harp on his length and height, and I get people's point with that stuff. But what I've noticed is even if a tackle isn't the longest guy, athleticism and strength are great equalizers. And Ekwonu has high-end speed and is a ridiculous strong human being. And even though he's only 6'4", I feel like his arms are quite long for his height. I don't see defenders getting into his body at all, really, barely ever. So, he's great at keeping his hands low, tight together, which is what I believe the coaching staff teaches them guys over there at NC State by watching all the other O-linemen. His hand placement and punch seem fine to me. I know I'm kind of, bouncing around a little bit here, but I'm really interested to see, his numbers at the combine. I'm not sure he'll put up, times and numbers like Tristan Wirfs did, but if he does, I don't think it would honestly surprise me. So to wrap this up, overall athleticism isn't elite, but he's pushing it. He's very close. He's got natural heavy core. A lot of times you'll see interior linemen have to jump and re-anchor on the line. You won't see Ekwonu have to do that kind of stuff. That's because he's so naturally strong. Just a great anchor, great core, great bend in his knees, which is important. I previously said my only complaint in the run game is over-aggressive, which leads to just being top-heavy, and that leads to a narrow base. But for 99% of the time, he plays with a proper base because his hips and core are on point. He's got great leverage. So the Giants draft this kid day one. He's one of the best run blockers we've had in the building in 25, 30 years. I know that might sound ridiculous, but just watch the tape. I think he's got all pro potential at guard. If he stays at tackle, I think in a few years, he could be possibly Pro Bowl potential. Don't expect Tyron Smith year one, but I think Andrew Thomas would be a reasonable comp, And my thoughts are hopefully just repetition and coaching, and he can make a similar leap or, have something kind of like Thomas did his second year. And it kind of helps when you're thrown into the fire of the NFC East, Not that there's great teams, but there is no lack of pass rushers. So wherever Ekwonu goes, the team is getting a hell of a prospect and a possible shock to the culture. So my overall take, can't miss at guard. I think he's a second-year starter at tackle. I think he can run zone scheme, or he can run a power gap scheme. Now, I think he'd be better at guard in a power run, but if the new coaching staff comes in and wants to try and rejuvenate that zone running, tackle's probably the best spot for him in a zone run scheme. So I can't say enough. Whoever the Giants don't get this guy, whoever gets him has a bright future for the offensive line. He's a beast. He has an old school mentality that I dig. And honestly, he's just a bad motherfucker.